Welcome to Rants and Reels. Tonight, we're going to talk about mortal engines.
I was 8 years old when my mother died. She loved traveling the world and digging up the past. He used to visit all the time. Then one day, everything changed. She'd found something. Something he wanted. He would have killed me too. But I got away.
The world is changing. Nothing can stand in the face of this. We are London.
Hester! Hurry! Get on! Before she died, my mother told me she was afraid of Valentine. And that if anything should happen to her, I was to find you. That you could stop him.
She could be a problem if she's anything like her mother.
Keep it safe.
What happens when you find Hester Shaw? I will kill her.
He's here.
In the great game of survival, this is checkmate.
I knew you wouldn't leave me.
Shut up and run.
You sure you want to do this?
I have to. For my mother.
You look at her, and all you see are the jagged edges. But she is something quite different. She is beautiful and strange. And very, very rare.
Alright, I've just come out of the theater after watching Mortal Engines, and as a real lover of fantasy films, science fiction films, weird movies, I absolutely loved it first. It's not perfect. It is not a perfect film, not by really any stretch of the imagination. There are some story issues, some aspects of the narrative and the plot and character development that are not fully explored, at least not to the extent that it doesn't suffer a little bit. There are bits that kind of drag, characters that you probably should care about that you don't really, because you don't know much more about them than their names. They seem really interesting, and you want to know more, but you don't ever really get it. It feels like there's a lot beneath the surface that got cut for time or was not fully developed because there was too much. It almost crumbled under its own weight. There is a lot in this film, but they managed to keep it afloat. It was engaging where it needed to be. It kept me going. I was pretty well gripped. It was a little over 2 hours. About 2:20, 2:15, in that neighborhood somewhere. It really kept me wrapped up the entire time. But I think that was really just me. There were other people in the audience that had a little more trouble with the runtime, so I think that might be more typical. So I think a lot of people are going to have a little hard time. In the middle, it kind of drags. I didn't mind that. I thought that was okay. The visuals and effects are spectacular. The world building was fascinating, and the whole thing was very fantastical. I'm intrigued. I know this is based off a book series, so I'm definitely going to go check those books out. I hadn't heard of them before this. I'm going to go pick one up. Probably going to just pick them all up and start diving in, because damn, it was really pretty cool. There were a lot of bits where, like, just about any genre film, any fantasy genre film, it's going to have bits that are definitely overblown. There's going to be a certain amount of camp or cheese, if that's what you want to call it, that comes up. It's going to get a little bit ridiculous at parts, but that was okay, because that helped keep it aloft when it started to get too heavy. And there are parts of the film that really warranted more explanation, more exposition, and more exploration that we didn't really get, that I wish we did. So really, it should have been much more. Probably this one could have been a two-part film. I think this was one book. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar enough with the books to say. If this was one book, it definitely could have made two films. There is enough content there that it really could have made two films. They could have explored more characters, more of the subplots. Things could have been better developed. That would have been a lot more interesting, I think. But really, I'm stunned by the visuals. I'm stunned by the world that was built. I was very pleased that there's this a film that looks and feels very unique, but is still very true to the tone and feel of fantasy, or high fantasy, if that's what you want to call it, because it did have that feel, kind of like a post-apocalyptic, postmodern high fantasy. Yeah, that works, I guess. But it is definitely worth it. It's definitely worth a shot. Go check it out. I recommend it because it's the kind of filmmaking that really needs support. It's not... I don't think it's going to be a huge hit, but I definitely think this is going to have a very strong cult following. I hope it does well, because I think this could be a fantastic series of films, a fantastic franchise. So Mortal Engines, definitely worth a shot. Give it a try. I think you'll like it, because I did. Thank you for watching. This is Rants and Reels. Have a good night, everybody.